thearbiteronline.com brings you Out of the Blue with Teree Whiteley, Drew Mays, Jessica Christensen, Jake Garson, and Dustin LaPre on sports. You're watching Out of the Blue, the Arbiter's special Fiesta Bowl coverage.
Today's episode of Out of the Blue is brought to you by the Blue and Orange Store, located on the upper level of the Boise Town Square Mall. The Blue and Orange Store is 2,400 feet of Bronco heaven.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Out of the Blue. I'm Drew Mays, and as you can see, we're doing things a little bit different here today. We're doing an Arbiter Sports Talk Roundtable, and joining me is the three most casually dressed guys in all of Arizona. The rookie, Brian Lubchak.
How's it going?
Arbiter's own gentle giant, Jake Garson.
I left my shorts at home.
And the man of the Arbiter himself, Dustin LaPre.
I brought my shorts.
Today was media day. Massive amount of people came, talked to the Boise State Broncos. We were all there, got the thoughts. Brian, what'd you think?
I saw a large selection out there today. The other press conferences we've had this week, we've been focusing on offense and defense. There's been about 4 people provided from each team for each of those sort of schemes. Yesterday we saw Oklahoma's defense and Boise State's offense. The day before we saw vice versa. Today, everybody was out there. You know, we could go talk to anybody we want to, pretty much. There's a large selection up front. Coach Pete gave a good statement, and there was other players we could go talk to as well. So really, we could go look for anything we wanted out there today, and it was nice to get to talk to all of them and see how their experience is going, and also talk about some football.
You know, my favorite comparison is a bunch of kids in a candy store. You know, there were a lot of the younger guys, some of the red shirts. The nice thing about something with the Fiesta Bowl is the whole crew came down. You know, every player on roster, players' wives, coaches' families. You know, so it's a real family, real fun atmosphere down here, and this is one of the first chances the guys have had to where we've seen the whole football team. They were out there with their picture phones, taking pictures with the Fiesta Bowl trophy, you know, getting a chance to joke around. You know, there were only, 10, 15 guys that were getting interviews. So for the other, 50, 60 kids that were out there, and we have to remember that these are, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. We're having the time of their life right now. It's beautiful out, 80 degrees, and I can imagine that they are not having any more fun than they possibly could, being here in Phoenix right now.
Certainly. I was excited to actually get up there and talk to guys. Not so much the interviews that we got to do, because we did get some amazing interviews today. I got to talk to Orlando Skandrick and Marty Tabin, but I also just sat around and, talked to the guys on the offensive line, and we're just talking about the football game. I didn't even have my recorder on, and we were just talking about what it's like to be down here and the experience. And it's nice to be able to relax and actually talk to these guys that won't really ever get a lot of media coverage. The offensive linemen, sometimes they'll come and they'll pick one guy out. This week it was Jaden Daly who was able to go to the press conferences. But today, sitting around with Andrew Woodruff and Ryan Clady and those guys and just talking about football. And it's really nice to be able to just kind of come in there in a relaxed state and just watch these guys have a little bit of fun.
One of the things that everybody's been talking about is how loose the Boise State Broncos have been compared to some of their other big games. A lot of the experts are saying about Oklahoma, really intense practices. They're really upbeat. The Broncos, you can tell, they're focused on the game, but they also just seem to have this vibe of, trying to take it all in, trying to enjoy everything. And I think you can see that in some of the stuff that Coach Pete said today.
Well, I think that's exactly true, and a lot of people are concerned. I know there's some Bronco fans concerned that they are taking a really mellow approach to this week and really not trying to get too uptight. And I got a chance to go out and do some press conference and interview with Coach Pete in Boise before we came down here. And one of the things that he stressed was not getting too uptight, not letting the players get so overwhelmed by Thursday, Friday, that by Monday, their stomach's in a twist and that they're not able to function. The last thing that he wants is these guys to come out and completely freeze up because they're so concerned about having to prove themselves, about the magnitude of this game, that they're not able to just go out and play football. And so I think that it could work to their advantage, if they can continue to stay loose. I think that they are prepared. I think they are here ready to win. They are a confident bunch. And as Dustin was saying earlier, Marty and Orlando and those guys are, they're very confident with their chances against the Sooner football team. And so I think it's going to be extremely important for them to stay relaxed and not get too uptight coming into Monday's game.
It's kind of a calm confidence too. It's not like this, it's kind of a cocky feel. It's just that they're calm and confident and they're ready to go. They're just trying not to waste all of that intensity that you really need for game day. They're trying not to use it all up right now. They're going to their practices and they're practicing really hard, but they're not wasting all that extra energy thinking about the game, getting all fired up about it right now. We've still got a couple days before the game. You want to be You want to have all that energy stored, so when game day comes around, you can exert it all. You want to be able to pump it out right then and kick off.
And if I could interject one more time, I do agree with you on that. I think it's kind of a calm before the storm, if you will, where, everything's kind of starting to mellow out and slow down and calm down, and there's just going to be this big burst of emotion when the game actually does that first kickoff. And I think that it's going to be kind of an awakening for fans, and realization that, hey, these guys are ready to play this. It's been a month, and that they, haven't been just, taking things easy and taking things off since they've been down here.
Well, let's hear it from Coach Pete himself.
We have been treated like royalty and rock stars, and they deserve it. How these guys have worked the last 5 years, and it's kind of coming to a head this next couple days. But we talk a lot about that. It's really different than how we kind of pride ourselves. We kind of pride ourselves on being a blue-collar outfit, and it doesn't matter where we play or how we're treated, that we're always going to show up ready to go. And so this has kind of been the far extreme. And I think this, in a way, will test our blue-collar mentality to see if we stay focused.
Coach Pete, he wasn't the only Bronco star out there today. You had guys like Ian Johnson, Jared Zabransky, the headline guys that were there. Brian, you got a chance to talk to a couple of those guys. What were your thoughts on them?
They both just seem really confident. Like we were talking earlier, they're not really cocky. It's almost on the verge of that, but it's really, it's just what Coach Pete is inflicting on these guys. They all want to feel comfortable, and they'd rather feel comfortable and calm going into this game than intense and nervous. So it's really nice talking to them and having them being confident, but at the same time they're calm and they're just raring to go because they've been waiting all month for this. They've been practicing all week, and it just seems like it's dragging on, and these days are going really slow leading up to it. They're definitely really excited, and I think they're really expecting some big plays out there. And I think one of the reasons why it's so important for these guys to come out calm and collected and not get overhyped about this game is because both have a lot to prove in the eyes of a lot of other people. I don't necessarily think that Ian and Jared feel that they have something to prove, but a lot of people are expecting to see whether Jared can win that first bowl game. Regardless of whether he's 33-5 as a starter, he's lost his 2 bowl games that he started in, and to go 0-3 in bowl games, especially losing a BCS game, losing that one at home last year to Boston College by an interception by him at late, and then losing the one to Louisville the year before in the Liberty Bowl by an interception by Zabransky late. I think that there is a lot of pressure from surrounding people, and I think to try to avoid that is one of the biggest keys for him. And then Ian, leading the nation in scoring, having such a breakthrough year, finishing 8th in the Heisman voting. There's a lot of people that are expecting him to validate his season by having a real legitimate game against this Oklahoma defense, which is a big-time rush defense.
That's one of the things you were talking about is Jared Zabransky. And, it's what have you done lately? Everybody only remembers the last thing you did. And the last thing you remember about Jared Zabransky in bowl games is the Broncos driving to win the game, and him throwing an interception, to lose the game for the Broncos. How much of a role is that going to play?
Well, Zabransky actually really doesn't think it's going to play a role. He's probably really sick and tired, honestly, of all that talk because of, it's a year ago or 2 years ago, and back to the Georgia game, and he's been being asked these questions all week long and all year long before that. He's probably sick and tired of it, but until he actually steps up in a bowl game and wins one for this team, he's going to continue to receive that sort of criticism. And with these 2 players, you're seeing like 2 different kinds of legacy. You see Jared Zabransky with his last opportunity to cement his legacy because he has been a good quarterback for this team. He took him to a BCS bowl, for crying out loud. But then you've got Ian Johnson, who's just kind of beginning to establish his own legacy. He's a sophomore. He's got 2 more years after this. And they're at different ends of the spectrum.